Welcome and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Rausch. I'm your own personal sales maven here to offer you tips, strategies, and techniques to master your sales conversation. Today, we are going to talk about those prospects who express interest in your expertise and your services and your products, and yet don't buy because they give you this answer. I'm going to explore all the free resources available before I invest in this. Have you ever had that happen to you? Oh my gosh, can I tell you how many times that has happened to me? It can be what is like the yin and the yang, the good and the bad about putting out a lot of content out into the marketplace where people think, well, I'm just going to not spend any money and I'm just going to get the free stuff and that will be good enough. Now, you probably know that isn't good enough to get the results that they have just told you on the discovery call or on the console call that they need. So, how do you handle these situations? And this came up in a coaching session with a client, and we kind of talked through this. So, this is my take on it. You do what makes sense for your business. I am one of those people who doesn't believe in chasing clients. And I also don't think that it's my job to try to convince somebody that they're wrong about their opinion or that they're wrong in not hiring me if they're not ready to, because I don't like for people to push me if I'm not ready to spend money. And I don't like to be made to feel like my whole life is going to fall apart and the sky is falling if I don't hire somebody. So I don't ever want to come across that way with somebody else. So in these instances, oftentimes the approach that I'll take, and this is what I coached for my client. So this is the suggestion that I'm offering to you today for listening is that you set yourself up to be that resource for them. You give them some options, and then they get to decide as an adult what it is they're going to do. And your job is to just make it easy for them to take the next step with you if and when they are ready. Okay. So that's kind of what we're going to go through today. I have some language suggestion here for you in this particular episode. And this is the exact kind of phrasing that I gave to my client, which is, when somebody says to me, "Oh, Nikki, I'm just going to use your free resources," or actually I had somebody say to me not too long ago, "I'm going to listen to every episode of your podcast before I take a next step with you," which at that point, I think there were 200 and I don't know, 20 episodes. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I may never hear from this person again. Who knows how long it's going to take them to binge the 200 and some episodes. I think now this episode that you're hearing is somewhere in the 260 range. And you know what? Actually, within just a couple weeks, the person came back and did hire me. So don't be afraid of this concept when somebody just wants to utilize free resources. What's awesome is if they're utilizing your free resources, because that is building the know, like, and trust. So take this as a hint to continue to put fantastic content out into the world, because it's this idea that you're giving what I call like grains of sand away, when you're putting free content out into the market. Now, sometimes people think like they got a free grain of sand. They think that's the beach because they don't know what all is possible and that you know. And when you're putting content out into the market, it is your job to lay that foundation of like what's possible, what else. And you can do that through language of like, this is the first step, or this is one of, the 5 steps, or this is to get you started, right? Which implies that there's more. And the way they get that is by actually signing up for one of your programs, buying your product, committing and putting money on the line. So I mentioned I was going to give you some language. So when somebody says to me, "I just want your free resource," I'll say something like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you found a resource that is going to benefit you. Please know that when things change for you and you're ready to do a deeper dive, you're welcome to reach out to me at any point, and I'm going to be so delighted to hear from you and potentially work with you." So I'm laying that foundation of like, hey, you're probably going to want to come back. So you decide again what works best for you, but the objective here is to stay really polite, to stay positive and be direct about what that next step is for them and let them know you're going to be here ready and waiting when they're ready to take that next step with you. And then you can somewhat bless and release. Now, if somebody has taken the time to get on a discovery call with you, somebody has, opted in for something, that doesn't mean that you don't ever put offers in front of them. As a matter of fact, you keep putting offers in front of them until they take that next step or they unsubscribe or they go away because they're never going to hire you. And that's okay. I'm not a big fan of chasing clients. As a matter of fact, I have a philosophy that I don't chase clients, but I do continue to invite people to work with me. So when you think about once somebody has had this conversation with you and they've said, I want to explore free resources, what are those next steps to stay engaged with them without you chasing them and spending a bunch of time and energy trying to convince them, I'm putting in quotes here, to buy from you? There are lots of ways that you can do this. One is when somebody, you know, is an ideal client for you based on the discovery call of what you found out about them, and you have put an offer in front of them and they give you this, I just want to explore free resources. Before you end that conversation, you probably want to check in with them and say, is there anything that would feel like a right next step for you for us to work with? So, for instance, if I offered you a getting started package, or if I offered you you know, a, a training course that you could do on your own, at your own time or whatever that is. So, to me, this is like putting a downsell offer in front of them just to see, because oftentimes, once people pay you a little bit of money and they get like exposed to what's possible for them when they work with you, they're much more likely to like take that next step and invest again and again and again. So don't be afraid of giving them a downsell offer. It doesn't always have to be an all or nothing. It doesn't have to be like you take my high priced offer or, go kick rocks. Don't ever call me again. Like it's okay to have something else for them. Now, if you don't have a downsell offer, but you maybe have another free resource, that might be something that you offer to them. Again, just to keep them focused on your resources versus trying to just like go out to, YouTube and find as many videos from as many people that do what, a version of what you do, because then you have a really hard chance of getting their attention back, right? So, or is it a curated list of some podcast episodes? Maybe it's some podcast episodes. If you don't have your own podcast, maybe it's a podcast where you've guested and you could send them some links to those. Now, you want to check and see, if I was able to provide you with some additional resources, would that be helpful? And this would be something that would be a no cost to you. And then you check to get that permission. And then once you have it, then you can send those resources out to them. And then you move on. You don't lament about, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. Like these people aren't doing what it is that I want them to do. I know, but that's okay. Your job is to continue to put yourself out there and make yourself available for the people who are ready when they're ready. So that means you continue to put offers out into the marketplace, that you continue to have exposure into the marketplace, whether it's by, whatever marketing efforts, whatever kind of content that you continue to put out into the market. And at some point, the people who are like, I really do want to consume a bunch of free resources, but I am going to invest in this, they're much more likely to come back when they're consuming your content. All right. So the other thing is keep in mind that timing is always the issue. And it's the thing, timing is one of those things that you don't get to control, right? For some people, they have to get so uncomfortable with the status quo before they will make some changes. But you don't know what that level of uncomfortableness is going to have to be that they have to attain in order to say, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want my business to be like this anymore. I don't want to, lose any more sales before I'm ready to invest in a sales coach or whatever it is that you offer. So it's okay. Like when they're uncomfortable enough, then as long as you are still visible to them in some way, now they have an opportunity to come back and invest in you and your services. And now your services get way more valuable because they're so uncomfortable, they're willing to pay to have some change. So just remember, some people need to experience a different level of uncomfortableness, even in addition to what they have already said to you on that consult call. So these are those moments where you just don't get tied up in something that you have no control over. And I will say, I spend a lot of time coaching clients around their level of frustration about people not doing what it is that they want them to do, not saying the things they want them to say, not behaving in the way that they want them to behave. And this is where I always bring back my all time favorite quote, which is blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. You have to add flexibility. You cannot be more attached to somebody taking action and getting outcomes for them than they are for themselves. Like you, you will, you'll drive yourself crazy. It'll be like beating your head against the desk. Like, what's the point in doing that? Or what's that saying? Like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's a really dark example that I'm giving you here. But you know, when you're wanting to change somebody else's behavior, there are things that you can do, words to have influence, but ultimately they are going to decide this for themselves. So not being overly attached and being okay with them, consuming as many free resources as you've put out there. Now, I want to clarify. I'm not saying give them a bunch of stuff for free that you would normally charge for. I'm not saying that. I'm saying give them ways to consume free content from you that you've already put out into the marketplace. I don't mean that you have to go create a bunch of new free stuff for them either. Although, if they've given you some great ideas that you think multiple people would benefit from, like take that idea and run with it and create a new opt in or create a new podcast episode or create a new XYZ, whatever that is for you. But don't be afraid of putting more content out into the marketplace. I actually teach a course, it's one of my master classes, and and I talk about how it's so okay to give some of what you consider your secret sauce away. Because when somebody is blown away by something that you give them, oftentimes they're like, well, she's giving that for free. Like, what else does she have? I had a client many, many years ago, I remember, who was so opposed to this. She held on to what she considered her secret sauce so closely. She kept it. The saying is like, I play my cards really close to my vest, or I'm not a poker player, but that's the like saying around this of like, I've got to hold all of my secrets so close and they're always behind the paywall. But what would happen a lot of times is she wasn't putting enough stuff out there to entice people to want to take that next step. And when I got her to loosen the reins a little bit, what she found is all of a sudden more people were interested in having discovery calls with her. She was actually closing more sales. So again, it's okay when somebody wants to just consume free content. Let them consume your free content. That's kind of the point of this particular episode. Okay, so final thoughts here. You can't change somebody's mind who isn't ready. You can position yourself as the go-to expert when they are. And so really look at your processes, your programs, your offers. What are other ways for them to get access to consume content that doesn't take any more of your time? Like this is stuff that is already out there. Like create a resource, you know, maybe a resource page on your website. And it could even be they have to opt in for that, right? Like they have to be added to your email list to get access to this resource page of free resources. And it can be, a lot of free resources. Um, give them ways to consume. Certain people have a certain number of times, this is known as convincer strategy, a certain number of times they have to hear about something or be exposed to something before they're ready to take action. So the convincer strategy, if you've heard me talk about it, is there are a certain number of times someone will say no to something before they'll say yes. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not talking about you convincing somebody because I don't believe in sales. It's your job to convince people to buy from you. I think it's your job to put an offer in front of them and allow them to make a decision. And you do that strategically through language and through your offers. But a convincer strategy is something they decide for themselves. So if somebody's convincer strategy, and it's context specific, by the way. So somebody might have a convincer strategy of one, right? Like they hear about something or they read about something or they experienced some piece of your content and they're like, I need more of you in my life. And they immediately sign up for your highest priced program or offer. That's that one, right? Those are great. We love those people. But there are other people that will have convincer strategy that could be three, or it could be 10, or frankly, it could be 25, could be more. I was actually listening to a podcast not too long ago, and the guest on the podcast was talking about a study that a company did that was talking about micro touches. She didn't list what the study was or who it was for, so I'm not quoting specifics here, but she talked about how this company had invested $1 million in a study around how many times people had to be exposed on average to their offering before they took action. And they were saying like these were micro touches. So a micro touch could be that they got an email from you but didn't actually read it, but they saw that your email showed up in their inbox, or they scrolled something on social media, didn't actually stop and read your post, but saw a post from you. Those could be micro touches. And apparently this company that invested $1 million in this study found that with their clients, the micro touches had to reach 30. That seems like a lot. But when you think about how much content you've put out into the market, how many times you're posting on social media, how many podcasts you've guested on, or how many podcasts you've created of your own podcast, or how many offers you've put out in the last year, these micro touches, they all count, right? And you're moving people towards that action. Your job is to always be there with an invitation when they're ready to take action. So I always say when you're creating offers, you want to hit the trifecta. It's the right time, the right offer at the right price, and then people buy from you. But you don't always know what that right offer at the right time and the right price is going to be for that individual person, which is why you continue to put offers out. And it's okay if nobody buys them. You're micro touching. That's okay. It's okay if you put a blog post out and you didn't get any comments on it and you think, well, nobody read it. That's probably not the case. It's okay for you to send out a weekly newsletter and think to yourself, I don't know if anybody read it. It's still a micro touch. So continue to put your content out there and don't be uh, discouraged, is what I would say. Don't be discouraged when somebody says, I want to consume a bunch of your free content, or I want to consume a bunch of free content before making a decision. It could just be they're not ready to buy. Now, one last story for you, and then I'm going to wrap up, is I remember having a client or having a call with a prospective client who could not have been more of an ideal client. Like every single answer to the questions that she asked her or she answered during the discovery call was an indicator to me of like, oh my gosh, I could really help this person. And she was a prime candidate for private coaching with me because the things that she was saying she wanted to work on, these were things that we could go really deep on in strategy sessions. And she wanted kind of that ongoing support. So having that Voxer access for me, like all these things made her so perfect. And she even had been referred by one of my other clients who is such a great ambassador for me. She was like raving about the results that she got in her business. So again, prime candidate. And I remember she was like, I think I'm just going to go like look at your website a little bit more and kind of explore and see what else is out there. And she ended up buying a $27 offer from me, like within hours of us having a call. The offer that I had actually put in front of her was like a $3,000 offer for a private coaching opportunity, which was a deal at the time. Like it was one of my like special promotional offers because normally it was like $6,500. So it was a really great deal. And she was like, I'm gonna like explore. And so she bought a $27 offer. And within 7 days, she actually had bought 3 times from me. And the third time was the offer that I had originally positioned to her. She just needed that like little bit extra. She's actually still a client to this day. She still invests in the things that I put out there and she finds that it benefits her and her business. So she's still like like now become a long-term client. So again, I hope that story inspires you. They are out there. Those people are out there. And the people who aren't, the people who are like, I'm just going to get the most free stuff that I can possibly get in the marketplace, like, okay, those are the people who they're not a right fit. They can consume your content. You don't have to spend any more time and energy and they can go find your content on their own if they want to. But I think I've actually talked about this before. Like just like when I go to I love Costco. I don't know if you like Costco, but I love Costco. And it's always fun to see what they're sampling. And I don't always take advantage of the samples, but you see the people who like go to every sample thing and they're like waiting to get the free sample of whatever it is. Costco's not putting the samples out for the people who just want to like go in there and like snack. They're putting it out there for the person who takes the sample, tries it, and says, I'm going to buy that and puts it in their cart. That's who you're putting content out into the marketplace for, too. Be Costco in this moment. They don't get offended by the people who stand around and just want to like snack on every little thing. I always think, why don't you just buy the $1.50 hot dog? It's a great hot dog. Like, why don't you just buy that if you're just here to eat? But whatever, to each their own. So, as always, I'm wishing you continued success. I'm encouraging you to not get discouraged by people who want to consume free stuff and hopefully inspiring you to continue to put free content out into the marketplace and curate it if you choose and allow people to consume it and make sure there are invitations for them to take the next steps when they are ready. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening. As always, please share this episode if you know somebody who needs a little encouragement about this idea of people wanting to consume free stuff and or leave a review for the podcast. All is appreciated. All right. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.